Friends, big developments are shaking the United States, and we start right there. Washington, D.C. is no longer just a political center, it's turning into something resembling a fortified zone. President Donald Trump has ordered hundreds of service members into the Capitol. Their official task is to help tackle rising crime, but the symbolism is much larger than that. The presence of uniformed troops in the streets of Washington carries a message. Order will be restored, one way or another. As of August 24th, these service members now have authorization to carry firearms. The rules are strict. They can only use them if there is a direct and immediate threat to human life. But still, this is a dramatic shift. Washington residents are suddenly seeing troops patrolling their neighborhoods, and for many, it brings a mixture of relief and unease. Trump is signaling strength, yet critics warn this could set a dangerous precedent. And here's the bigger question: is Washington just the beginning? Trump is openly considering expanding this deployment to other Democrat-run cities like Baltimore, Chicago, and New York. He argues those cities are collapsing under crime and mismanagement. But mayors and Democratic leaders are furious, calling it an abuse of power. This is not just a security debate, it's a raw power struggle playing out in front of the entire nation. If you're new here, I'm Andrew Meet Rich. I used to work inside a state-run media outlet, saw how stories were twisted to fit the narrative, and I walked away. Now I'm independent, I speak freely, and I tell you what really matters. Hit like, subscribe, and if you want to keep this channel alive, consider becoming a sponsor. It means more than you know. Predictably, Trump's decision sparked outrage. The mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, said flat out that his city does not need what he called a military occupation. He's even threatening to take the administration to court, and Johnson is not alone. Across the Democratic Party, leaders are lining up to denounce Trump's move, framing it as a political stunt. But here's the irony. These same cities have struggled for years with violent crime, collapsing infrastructure, and social unrest. Now, when federal help arrives, they call it an invasion. Trump, meanwhile, is not backing down. He jumped on his social media platform with a fiery post, declaring that despite constant attacks from what he calls fake news, his approval ratings are at historic highs. He claimed some polls put him at 60 or even 70%. Whether those numbers are accurate or not is almost secondary. The message was clear. He sees himself as the most popular leader in the country, unfairly targeted by hostile media, and he's preparing even tougher measures. For Trump, this is about more than crime. It's about dominance, image, and forcing Democrats into a corner. The stakes are enormous. If he pulls this off and the streets do calm down, he gains political capital. If not, the backlash could be just as historic. The truth is, America is watching a real-time experiment in raw executive power, and if you ask me, this is just the opening move. Now let's jump across the Atlantic where Europe is facing its own storm. In Germany, Hamburg was shaken by a major emergency. A warehouse fire in the port area triggered massive explosions, fueled by gas cylinders stored near the site. The sky filled with thick black smoke visible for miles, while firefighters scrambled to contain the inferno. It's still unclear what sparked the blaze, and authorities are investigating. But beyond the smoke, German politics itself is smoldering. Chancellor Friedrich Merz made waves by suggesting Ursula von der Leyen, the current head of the European Commission, as a candidate for Germany's presidency in 2027. Think about it. She just started her second term in Brussels at the end of last year. By the time the German presidential election rolls around, she'll be halfway through her mandate. Even Merz admits he's unsure whether she'll make it to the finish line in Brussels. That's how shaky her position is. And let's be honest, Ursula von der Leyen is one of the most controversial figures in European politics today. Critics call her out for scandals, questionable deals, and policies that stirred anger. Yet, for her personally, a move to the German presidency would be a perfect next step. After all, she's already made history as the first female defense minister and the first female head of the European Commission. Why not go for the first female president of Germany? The political chess doesn't end there. For Friedrich Merz's Christian Democratic Union, this strategy has an extra layer. Remember Angela Merkel, the first female chancellor. Imagine the CDU boasting that under their leadership, Germany not only had the first female chancellor but also the first female president. For party branding, it's a dream scenario. And make no mistake, they're already laying the groundwork for it. But across the border in France, the story is even more explosive. President Emmanuel Macron's popularity has collapsed to 19%, one of the lowest points in his political career. His Prime Minister, François Bayrou, fares no better with just 18% support. French citizens are voicing deep disillusionment. Polls reveal that more than 70% of the population now favors federalizing the country, giving regions more control over laws to reflect local needs. Some even want to redraw France's regional borders. And then there's Bayrou's proposal to scrap 2 national holidays in the name of economic efficiency. The French public absolutely hates it. For them, holidays are not just days off, they're part of a cultural balance between work and life. This idea is seen not as reform, but as coercion, as a violation of something sacred. The result? A wave of anger fueling the rise of the right, which is gaining traction faster than ever. France is heading toward a political shakeup, and it's only a matter of time. Back to Ursula von der Leyen. She's now in full defense mode. Facing criticism over the recently signed EU-US tariff agreement, she insists it was the only responsible move. In her words, if the 2 largest democratic economies had failed to compromise, the result would have been a trade war, a gift to their rivals. But her words sounded less like confidence and more like justification. Critics, including former European Central Bank chief Mario Draghi, argue she caved under pressure. Von der Leyen, however, pushes back, pointing to other recent trade successes, deals with Mexico, Mercosur, Switzerland, the UK, progress with Indonesia, and hopes for a pact with India by the end of the year. She's painting herself as a leader, delivering results, despite the backlash. But here's the catch. European lawmakers are waiting for her after the summer break, ready with tough questions. She can't dodge them forever. The irony is sharp. While Ursula promotes global trade wins, at home in Europe her legitimacy is under fire. It's a balancing act, but one that might collapse. For now, her survival strategy is clear. Project strength abroad, stall critics at home, and hope momentum carries her through. But in politics, hope rarely lasts long without hard results. Germany, meanwhile, faces an economic storm. Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil traveled to Kyiv, pledging €9 billion annually in aid to Ukraine. Yet experts back in Berlin warn Germany itself is heading into a financial crisis. The welfare system is stretched thin. Pensions, healthcare, elderly care, unemployment benefits, all exploding in cost. By 2029, the federal budget could be short by €170 billion. Coalition partners are ringing alarm bells. Markus Söder, Bavaria's powerful leader, bluntly stated that Germany must cut spending. He proposes slashing migrant benefits and subsidies for green technologies like heat pumps. The debate is heating up, and the choices are painful. Cut welfare, risk social unrest. Keep spending, drown in debt. Either way, the status quo is unsustainable. Adding fuel to the drama, Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck, a leading Green politician, announced he'll resign his Bundestag seat this September. He says he wants to shift into academia, conducting research in Copenhagen and at Berkeley in California. Before leaving, he couldn't resist taking a jab at Markus Söder, mocking his social media antics, especially his endless sausage-eating photos. Habeck quipped, "That's not politics, it's distraction." These are the kinds of personal feuds that make German politics look less like governance and more like theater. So where does that leave us? On both sides of the Atlantic, the stakes are climbing. In America, Donald Trump is flexing executive muscle, deploying troops into cities and daring Democrats to stop him. His supporters see a leader finally bringing order. His opponents see a creeping authoritarianism. In Europe, Germany and France are at breaking points, financially, socially, and politically. Ursula von der Leyen is fighting for her political survival. Macron is sliding into irrelevance, and Germany's leaders are clashing over how to prevent a fiscal meltdown. What we're witnessing is a moment of convergence. The United States and Europe, 2 pillars of the Western world, are both heading into turbulent waters. In Washington, the clash is between federal power and local control. In Europe, it's between global ambitions and domestic discontent. And make no mistake, the ripple effects will reach all of us. So, my friends, stay alert. History isn't unfolding slowly anymore, it's accelerating. If you found this breakdown useful, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and if you're able, consider becoming a sponsor to keep this independent voice alive. Together we'll cut through the noise and see the bigger picture, because the storm isn't coming, it's already here.